welcome to the Ethical Perspectives module. Now, what is this all about? Well, ethical perspectives, ethics, morals, it's kinds of words you hear all the time, but it's quite difficult to pin down quite what one might mean when using these words. Well, this is morally wrong. Oh, have you given due consideration to the ethical aspects of this problem? Well, what does one mean, or what should one mean when one uses words like these? Well, that's exactly what we're going to look at in this module. So, the module is roughly divided in two parts. So the first one is more abstract, you might want to say. So it looks at ethics in general. So what is ethics? What are the sources of ethical values? And on what basis can we make moral judgments? So to answer all of these questions, the module looks at a few different ethical perspectives, as we call them. So that means we try and provide some frameworks from which to think about ethical problems. And those frameworks come from, a very rich philosophical tradition, or rather a series of very rich philosophical traditions, mainly drawn from Western philosophy. So we're going to look primarily at three main ethical perspectives or traditions in moral philosophy. The first one is broadly Kantian moral theory. And you might be familiar with the rough spirit of this approach to ethics. And the idea here is that, you have to do the right thing because it is the right thing, without further consideration. That's one thing we're going to be looking at, Kantian ethics. And the second perspective we consider is utilitarian or consequentialist ethics. And here, the rough idea is that you have to do, or rather, the rough idea is that the right action is the one that brings about the best possible consequences. So what you have to do morally is to try and bring about a better world for people like us, try and increase human well-being and so on. So that's consequentialism or utilitarianism. And the third and final moral theory we're going to be looking at sort of tries and turns this on its head. And it really says that when we're thinking about ethics and morality, we shouldn't focus too much on actions per se, action as such, but really we should be looking at people's character, people's moral dispositions. So you can't tell just by looking at a choice situation what is the right action. But what you can tell is whether a certain person has developed the right character traits, whether this person is a virtuous person, so to speak. So three ethical perspectives, as I said: Kantian moral philosophy, consequentialist moral philosophy, and virtue ethics. Now that's the first part of the module. In the second part of the module then, we try and apply these three main ethical perspectives to a number of pressing contemporary social issues. And these issues are divided in three main families. There's stuff to do about the relationship between us and people who are distant from us, whether because they are the distant poor, such as people starving in other parts of the world, or whether they are people who just want to come and partake in our society. So we're going to look at the ethics of immigration as well. The second topic we'll be looking at has got to do with the human body and with genetics, choices, children. So we're going to look at the morally controversial issues that arise in connection with our human embodiment. So we're going to look at whether it is okay to have so-called designer babies, whether it is okay to have a market in human organs. So these are some of the issues we're going to look at. And the final area of applied ethics that we're going to consider in this module has got to do with political violence broadly conceived. So we're going to think about the ethics of war. Is it ever morally acceptable to go to war? In what way should we conduct military operations? That's one question. And then of course this leads on to a very pressing contemporary issue, which is that of terrorism. Is terrorism any different from war? And if so, in what ways? Is terrorism never acceptable, or are there circumstances in which it is a legitimate form of political violence? So that's just a taster of the issues that we're going to look at in this module, and I look forward to seeing you in class next year. Thank you very much.
The copyright to this recording is owned by the University of Wales, Newport.